League of Legends is a multiplayer online battle arena, or a MOBA, that launched all the way back in 2009. Despite its age, it remains as one of the biggest esports in the world, consistently pulling some of the highest viewership out of any esport ever. As a longtime fan of Valorant, I've always known about League. Both games were created by Riot Games, yet somehow I went my entire life without ever playing the title that built the company's empire. That realization stuck with me. How have I never tried it? So, I decided to change that, and not casually. Instead of simply learning the basics, I'm setting a challenge. Start from Iron as a complete beginner and climb all the way to the top ranks. Master, Grandmaster, or even Challenger. I don't care how long this takes. Months, years, as long as I'm alive, I'll keep grinding until I reach that goal. Now let me explain exactly how I plan to make that happen. I'll be releasing a new video every time I hit a new rank. Or, at a minimum, once per month, whichever comes first. That way, progress is always documented. If I'm climbing quickly, you'll see rank by rank updates. If I hit a wall, you'll still see the grind. But I do seem to be getting a little bit ahead of myself. I haven't even played my first game yet, so let's change that. I was immediately thrown into the tutorial, and I had to choose between playing WASD and point and click. Since I've never played a MOBA before, I didn't know what to pick, so I just did point and click. And now, it is time to start my journey in League of Legends. The tutorial has you killing off some minions, which I immediately got to.
Alright, this game seems pretty easy. Alright, now what? Oh, what the fu- Oh, it's telling me to use... That's not good.
You can tell I really didn't understand the principles of League of Legends at first, and I still probably don't know them even at the time of recording this.
Minions have spawned? What the f does that mean?
I was able to get my first ever kill on League of Legends, not that this really counts. I tried out a few different champions, and then I finally finished the tutorial. This is where the addiction started.
We won. Solid.
I select Miss Fortune as my first ever champion I unlock, and now it was on to the other two tutorials that I had to cover. The second tutorial taught me about leveling up and how it improves my abilities.
Learn a basic ability? Oh, you don't start with everything?
No, you most certainly do not start with everything. I hadn't yet learned anything about items, so I kinda just left without any.
Items? Wait.
Learning the basics about items would be in the next tutorial.
Yo!
I encountered my first turret, not knowing how they worked at all.
Yo, let's not do that.
When inside the range of a turret, if you attack an enemy, the turret will start attacking you. I did not know this. You can see early signs of me getting greedy and trying to chase kills. It led to my first death.
Alright.
I also found the shop for the first time, but I quickly gave up.
Alright, I'm not doing all of that.
Little did I know how important the shop is to this game. As the tutorial went on, I gained insane amounts of gold. And since I wasn't spending it, the game was just putting stuff into my inventory.
Yo, let me be! Alright. What the hell is this? Sure, purchase. I don't know.
I did go on to finish the second tutorial.
It's because of that gun I bought.
I was now on to the third and final tutorial, where I was forced to buy items. I was also forced to CS, meaning creep score.
Deal a killing blow to 12 minions.
Dealing a finishing blow to a minion generates 1 CS. This will give me gold and XP, and it is very crucial to learn how to CS in League of Legends. But I'll get into all that later. I later get yelled at for not buying enough in the store, but honestly, we've seen enough of the tutorial and it's kinda time to move on to the real game. So once I wrap up the final tutorial, I was given full access to the League of Legends launcher. I also found out how to queue up as different champions, but I didn't know that you had to queue up for specific roles. This is going to come into play later. I then queued up for my very first match, against robots. And it quickly came time to join my very first match. I got put into a game playing top lane as Caitlyn, which is definitely not meta. I also never selected any runes, because I had no idea what they were at this point. And to top it all off, I died without CSing at all.
Alright, well.
I didn't know that I was queued as top lane, so I just went all over the map wherever I wanted. And this was because I didn't know what the rules of League of Legends were. I knew nothing about this game. I even end up going to bot lane before I go back to top lane. Like, what am I even doing? By some miracle, my team still ended up winning that game. After that, I was able to officially unlock Caitlyn. And after playing another game, this time as Miss Fortune, I decided that I'm going to scroll through the entire roster of champions and pick one that I think looks cool.
I'm just going to buy somebody who I think looks cool. I think that's the move. And then I'll learn how to play whatever that role is based on the one I pick. Seems like a fine idea.
As I'm scrolling, one champion sticks out and catches my attention. This action will have consequences.
Alright, this guy's in contention. Nunu and Willem.
I actually didn't end up buying him first. I instead started with a champion called Janna.
I'll buy it.
And being the amazing League player I was, I queued Janna for top lane and Sona for bottom lane. And to make matters even funnier, instead of playing support or top lane like I queued, I instead played middle lane. I'm so glad that I didn't have chat turned on at this point. I even found myself battling monsters in the jungle. Needless to say, we did not win that game. And I felt like I was confused about what the roles in the game were, so I googled them, and let me explain what I learned. This here is Summoner's Rift, the map that pretty much every game of League of Legends is played on. There are 3 lanes that go throughout the entire map, leading to the enemy's base. The one on the top is obviously called top lane, the one in the middle is called mid lane, and the one on the bottom is called bot lane. Pretty self-explanatory. However, to me, what was not self-explanatory was knowing what champions play in which lane. That's just something I had to Google every time I wanted to play a new character. But anyway, there are 5 roles in League of Legends. Obviously, we know where top, mid, and bot go, but what about the other 2? Well, the other 2 roles are support and jungle. Support goes along with bot lane, and bot lane is also called ADC, attack damage carry. And jungle, well, goes in the jungle. That's pretty much all I took away up until this point. But do you remember the champion I mentioned that I was interested in playing earlier? Well, that champion is none other than Nunu and Willem, a champion that thrives in the jungle. Now, I didn't know anything about positions yet, but I still wanted to buy Nunu.
I don't know what the jungler role is, but I was very fascinated with this one character, so we're gonna buy him.
Little did I know that this would become my most played champion. I get into another match, unfortunately queued up as top lane. So I was kind of set up from failure in the beginning since I couldn't get a jungle pet, but that didn't stop me from exploring the jungle for the very first time.
I don't see any monsters.
I accidentally ganked somebody for the very first time too. It's like I was born to be a jungler. However, I'm actually unable to take down Gromp, so I have to strategically retreat.
Appears I'm not too good at this.
As a whole, learning how to play League of Legends from an absolute beginner is a very painful process. It's a lot of dying and having no idea what you did wrong. I was picking fights against the enemy team that was level 7 while I was level 3. A toddler should be able to figure out that I would never beat him, but I guess I'm dumber than a toddler because I didn't figure this out at first. I finished my first ever game as Nunu and Willem, going 0, 15, and 2. Absolutely diabolical.
That was all me.
In order to play ranked League of Legends, you need to have 20 champions unlocked as well as be level 30 on your account. So from now until the time that I play my first ranked game, I am solely focused on leveling up my account so that I can play ranked. Now, I had to play dozens and dozens of games in order to get to that level, so unfortunately I can't show every little detail of what happened on this journey, but I can do my best in summarizing the main events that has happened. As you can probably tell from the gameplay on screen, I found an early fascination in playing Jinx, I think mostly because I watched Arcane. I found myself having an early success with her, finishing some games going significantly positive, which definitely allowed me to have fun while playing the game. However, it didn't stop me from continuing to try other champions. I finally learned how the queue system works, and I learned that I had to queue for certain roles, and I was finally able to play Nunu jungle for the first time. Really. As a jungler, your job's really not that hard. You're responsible for farming neutral monsters, such as these Krugs. You also have to secure objectives such as dragons, rift heralds, barons, etc. Also, their most important job is ganking. Ganking is pretty much when you sneak into a lane and help your laner attack the enemy, pretty much creating a 2v1. I don't think I started ganking until probably my 60th game, but I'll probably get into all that later. At first, I wasn't too fond of the jungle. Instead, I was going to try out all the lanes and see which one I liked the best. For this game, I was Darius mid lane, don't ask why. And even though my gameplay is still certainly horrible, you may have noticed that my builds have been starting to look more normal. That's because I found out that you can Google builds based on a character, and it'll also tell you what role you should play that character in. I continue to take advantage of this resource throughout my entire time playing League of Legends so far. I would love to try to explain how items work in this game, but there are over 200 items and I certainly do not understand any of them, or how builds work in general. Learning how to build properly is a goal I have set for the next video. But anyway, let's get back to my journey. Nunu and Willem was strongly growing on me and quickly became my favorite character to play, but the desire to play a lane still lingered in my mind. And even though I was successful as Nunu and Willem, I found myself every so often switching it up and playing a lane. But I never properly learned how to play the lanes, because I didn't know what CSing was. My main focus was always just targeting the enemies, and that's a problem because while I am chasing them, they are killing my minions and leveling up. This frustrated me early on because I didn't know what I was doing wrong at all. This led me to overall quit bottom lane in general. Instead, I moved to mid lane, playing my very first game as Ahri. and I did not see results very quickly. But unlike bottom lane, I actually was having fun with Ahri. And even though I wasn't great, I started queuing up for Swift play. The skill gap was definitely noticeable, and I kinda got waffle stomped at first. But the more I played, the more comfortable I got with her moveset and the better I did. Unbelievable concept. But I still faced the problem of never CSing. In this game, I am 10 minutes in and I only have 23 CS. Not good. But then the next day, I fortunately do a little bit of homework. By watching a bunch of YouTube videos explaining how League of Legends works, I learn about runes and CSing. But let's start with runes. Runes are a pre-game customization system that gives your champion bonus stats and special effects. There's a primary path and a secondary path. Each champion pretty much has a different rune setup depending on your playstyle and just how the champion is in general. It can be pretty confusing at first, but just use Google if you can't understand it. Now, back to CSing, or creep scoring. This is a lot less confusing than runes are. CSing is pretty much just when you get the last hit on a minion. This gives you gold and XP. Gold being used in the shop, XP being used to level up. You want to out CS your enemy laner so you're ahead in the shop and both in level, eventually leading you to being stronger. So I make my first ever rune page, this one being for Jinx, and I almost show signs of properly starting to CS. You can see that I understand the importance of clearing a cannon minion. And even though that I still struggled with fundamentals at times, I found success and motivation to keep playing. At first, I had a strong desire to main Ahri because I believed that I was getting pretty good at mid lane. This could not have been further from the truth. In fact, I even went back to bottom lane, and I did not do well at all, reaffirming why I do not want to play bot lane anymore. But if I've learned anything by doing this challenge so far, it's that practice and determination gets results, and that's something that I'm going to see very soon. For the first time, I try out a draft pick. These matches are significantly more competitive than the Swift plays are, because these follow the same form that ranked games play. My knowledge on the jungle is still very scarce. As you can see on the minimap, I didn't even have any of the timers turned on yet. I also just always straight up ignore all of the objectives that spawn on the map because I didn't know they were important. That's not even to mention, my ganks were absolutely atrocious. I actually believe I did worse by being in teamfights than if I actually wasn't there. At this point, I still didn't have any chat turned on, and I'm very glad because I know my team would be flaming me in these situations. I got pretty comfortable losing some games. If you notice, most of these games I'm negative. But to me, that was totally okay because I was having fun just playing the game. And eventually I do figure out that there's a setting that can turn on minimap timers, so just by doing that, I got slightly better at playing jungle, even if I couldn't hit my snowballs. I would be going back and forth a couple times playing mid lane and jungle. I genuinely am horrible at mid lane. But somehow that did not stop me from playing so much Ahri. This play I did straight up confuses me. What was I trying to do? I spent days practicing my Ahri, and for a while she was my highest mastered character. But despite the grind, I was still absolutely terrible. I definitely do think a majority of it was me, I take full ownership in that. But I was also just getting matched into people who were just much better than me. Mid lane is actually considered the hardest role in League of Legends, and that's why some of the best players in the world, such as Faker, play mid lane. And even though that I liked mid lane enough at the time, I decided that it wasn't the role that I should learn how to play the game on. I found myself back in the jungle, and I was starting to understand more and more about how ganks and just jungle worked in general. To me, the jungle was such a rewarding role, because if you did well, everybody else on your team did well. I even tried out some other champions in the jungle, such as Shaco. Thank God I did not become a Shaco main, but one champion in the jungle stood out to me far beyond the others. That champion was none other than Gwen. At first, I was having so much fun playing with Gwen. Her scissors felt like they just mowed down enemies. And for that reason, I stuck with the champion and played her so much. And even though I eventually go on to drop Gwen, I give her much credit because she did teach me the fundamentals of how to play jungle. I was far from being good with Gwen. However, my jungle clears weren't terrible, but that has nothing to say about my game sense. I was completely lost. I will say though, I was getting better and better at taking team fights, and recognizing when they were about to happen. However, sometimes I was a little overconfident and expected to be able to wipe the entire team by myself. Obviously, this would never happen. But over the long course of an entire month, I was busy grinding, and grinding, until I eventually finally started to see a little bit of results. And since I was doing so well as Nunu, I decided to buy a skin. And I think this skin actually gave me powers because I was unstoppable once I got it. Out of nowhere, I was suddenly locked in. I was able to make plays that I never thought I could make, and even though I still had much room to improve and so much to learn, my confidence was through the roof. And I realized that's what I was missing the entire time I've been playing League of Legends so far. confidence. Having confidence while also having fun with the game genuinely led me to being better at the game. I was supporting my teammates, supporting myself, and also just diffing the enemy jungler. Somehow it just felt easy securing objectives all of a sudden. I even started to full clear my jungle before 3 minutes, which was something I have not been able to do previously. I still had my fair share of mistakes and ran into trouble along the way. And even though it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, I still managed to have a great time, and that was the most important part of my journey in playing League of Legends. When I played with my team and we got stuff done, I felt great because I thought it was my job to do these things. And it would feel even better when the enemy team surrenders even when they're significantly up. I was having so much fun playing unranked that I hadn't even realized I hit level 30. And now that I'm level 30, that means I can finally play my first game of ranked. This is the moment you have all been waiting for, seeing how an absolute beginner plays ranked for the very first time. I spent almost an entire month trying to level up to level 30 just so I can be in this moment right now. But the fact that it was ranked didn't take away from my skill at all. I didn't even really realize that I was playing ranked yet. There were no nerves to be soothed. I was completely in a flow state. And while my first game I didn't quite frag out or do anything absolutely insane, I did end up winning. And honestly, it was all downhill from here. I low-key kinda popped off every single game, as well as my team. Every single objective I pretty much scored. And my confidence, as I said before, was absolutely through the roof. After winning my second game going 4-2 and 14, I was absolutely committed to the role as a jungler, and I swore an oath to never drop this position. I do definitely think I got very lucky with my teammates throughout this entire placement game process. However, I am the GOAT, and I did sometimes do some pretty crazy stuff. I only got better and better at ganking. My job as a jungler was honestly very well done. And I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything, but during these 5 placement games, it really was never close. There was a clear skill gap between me and the other team. This is because I had something they didn't, and that was idiotic confidence. I was an unpredictable player because honestly, I didn't even know what I was doing myself, and that's completely okay. I also don't think many people know how to play against good junglers in the lower elo, and I also don't think many people know how to play against Nunu in general. I finished my third game going 13, 6, and 16. That's pretty darn good. To spare the boring details, I kinda shit myself in the 4th game and do absolutely terrible, and I ended up losing. I pretty much blame myself for this loss. It's now time for my 5th and final placement match that decides my rank. And just like the other 3 games, I absolutely popped the freak off and kinda carried my team. I noticed that a majority of the time, these fights would not have been won if it weren't for me. I bet you can hear the cockiness in my voice right now, but honestly, I felt so proud of myself because as an absolute beginner, I did not expect to be doing this well in the ranked matches. I finished my last placement game going 10-2 and 10. Pretty good. And just like that, ya boy's bronze 4. But I didn't quite want to stop there just yet. You see, in that moment, I knew for a fact that I was much better than bronze 4 and I deserved to be ranked higher. It was only because I lost that one game unfortunately, so I got right back to the grind. And as I thought, I was completely 100% correct because I continued to dominate the rank. Fortunately for me, the other teams I matched into were not as good as me, and this caused me to go on an insane win streak, only losing around 4 games, and before I knew it, I was out of the ugly bronze and into the beautiful and deserved silver 4. I found out that the games that I were playing were against people in platinum rank. This is because of my insane win streak and something called hidden MMR, a topic that I'll get into in the next video. You can say in the comments that I was carried, you can say that I got lucky with my teams and that I'm not really good at this game, but I think I'm going to prove to you all throughout the next couple of videos that I am actually pretty good at League of Legends. And don't think that this barely took any time at all. I've probably played a total of 70 hours of League of Legends just to get to this point. I know I was pretty cocky earlier, but don't let that fool you. I know that I'm not that good at this game, and I accept my spot as a beginner. There's nothing wrong in my mind with being silver 4 at this point in my life. However, I know shortly that's going to change, and I hope that you all stay tuned for the next video. I can only imagine that that video is going to be much more exciting and a better insight into how I actually play game by game, so do stay tuned. Thank you all for making it this far in the video. Make sure to subscribe so you can see me hit gold. Do have a fantastic rest of your day.